Produced by Podcast Architects.
Howdy, welcome back to The Path Forward. This is episode 2, part 2 of our recording with Lee Bratcher from the Texas Blockchain Council. And we are excited to get going. We will have a full outro at the end of this episode where Dr. Fernandez and I will talk through our reactions to the conversation. And yeah, we appreciate you joining us. Here we go with part 2.
You brought up Mark Cuban though, so tell us a little bit more about that experience and what did you get to ask him? How long did you prep? Were you in front of the mirror like prepping for the questions, or how'd that experience go?
You know, I didn't know I was going to get to talk to him. He walked in the front door of the building, like didn't even come in the back, didn't have an escort. He just came in by himself to the front door of the building, very low key. He just walked up to me, and you know, we talked briefly. And then after the press conference, I then got to ask him the question, and predominantly around crypto education and financial literacy, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why they even invited us there, the Mavs, for those that don't know, just partnered with a crypto exchange called Voyager. Mm-hmm. And I know you guys were familiar, but maybe some of the listeners hadn't realized that. And this is a corporate sponsorship, just like FTX with the Miami Heat,
sure.
Any of these things. And the only reason they invited us, because we didn't, we're not a corporate sponsor of the Mavs, we're a nonprofit. They bat away our small sponsorship dollars. They invited us to be part of the conversation for future education, financial literacy, high school, even athletes who are using this technology to maximize their contracts with royalty rights, and or even they just want to invest a little bit, but they don't know where to start. So we want to participate, and they've invited us to participate in some of the educational opportunities around there. Because as a nonprofit, we can kind of bring in subject matter experts that aren't shilling one thing or another, right. Very broad, financial literacy type stuff.
It's hard to sell, for lack of a better term, some of those hard skills that we used to teach kids, when we were in high school. Part of it takes something like that, like a Mark Cuban or a partnership with Voyager or this new crypto metaverse to get kids interested enough to actually invest their time into learning about this, or to ask their parents or to ask their schools or their teachers. Because if I were just to tell you, hey, you're going to have Finance 101 and we're going to do our taxes and I'm going to show you about car insurance and credit card insurance, like those things are highly important.
Yeah.
But they don't, when kids have all these different choices when they're in high school, that doesn't resonate with our kids. But crypto does, Bitcoin does, Dallas Mavericks, that does. Yeah. Now we've shifted the narrative to highlight what we know kids are going to need, right? Yeah. And so I can draw kids into that, right? Hey, you're going to learn how to invest. You're going to learn how to compound interest. You're going to learn what yield farming. You're going to learn all these things that are up and coming that athletes are doing and movie stars are doing because they need to, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. I'm hoping that takes off and that soars because, man, that's another way to get it into the hands of our kids, the technology component of it. So that's pretty cool. What did you have any questions you wanted to ask him that you didn't get a chance to? Like, was there one that you had on the...
Oh, yeah. I mean, millions, right? Millions of questions around, I've always just kind of, I don't know, admired is not the right word. I have immense respect for him, just as an investor, as, he's almost like seeing ahead of the curve on the technological emerging tech front. So I didn't get to ask any of those questions. I also really wanted to ask him, and not really even ask him, but just talk to him about Bitcoin and Ether and DeFi and these things. He's such a loud voice. He's not loud. What I mean is he's got such a big megaphone.
Yes. People listen when he talks. And if he could just adjust his message a little bit, I think he could be immensely influential to the West and the United States in particular, moving in the direction that I think we need to move in, which is decentralization, moving away from the kind of the Chinese
authoritarian financial surveillance,
right?
Police state type stuff. He can do that at the grass level. He's on Shark Tank. He's got the audience to really train the next generation to be thinking about things like privacy, decentralization, value, trade-offs, right? Like even the Bitcoin piece, like, it uses energy. Yeah, so does everything else that we do in the world uses energy. Bitcoin mining uses less energy than Christmas lights. Right. And we derive value from Christmas lights because they're aesthetically pleasing. It's nostalgic. People like them. We derive I can't say infinitely, but significantly more value from a sound money ecosystem like Bitcoin than from Christmas lights.
Right.
So put things in, if we put things in,
I don't know, my wife might argue.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, point well taken.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to even bring it more closer to home, that's something with mining in the word. Zinc mining uses more energy than Bitcoin mining. And Jason Lowry, it sounds funny when I say this, he's from Space Force, like legit. He's a Bitcoin researcher for Space Force.
Okay.
He's doing his PhD dissertation on Bitcoin and national security. He's probably one of the top DoD thinkers on Bitcoin. And he had a kind of a thought stream the other day, a logical train of thought where he was saying all the other value transfer mechanisms throughout history have been secured with blood, right? Oil, gold, real estate, all these things are secured through rule of law at the end of a spear or the threat of force,
right?
The end of a barrel of a gun in the 21st century, right? So Bitcoin is the first value transfer system or store of value that is secured through code. It's a complete sea change. That's revolutionary.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the hesitation is? Is it just the education piece? People don't know exactly what it is and what it. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think just like the internet took years for people to adopt, and people in our parents' and grandparents' generation said, "Oh, I'll never have to learn that," and then like 10 years later, they have an iPhone.
Yeah. You have no choice.
You have no choice. And I think 10 years from now, we'll all be using blockchain. We just don't know. We don't know that we're using certain internet protocols. We send an email. I think it's called SMTP.
Yeah.
For email communications. I mean, I can barely even remember the name of the protocol, much less how it works, but I use it every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So
SMTP is the outgoing one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something about packets of information. Again, showing my computer science illiteracy.
Yeah. I think the other hesitation, I mean, it is fear of the unknown, but at some level, if you talk about the internet, unless you're getting into what for many people was kind of the defining one, which is I don't want to put my personal information online. And especially you start talking with the boomer crowd, you start talking about social security numbers and that crowd gets really twitchy. Like not everybody.
Just tell them like, obviously. Hey, Experian was already hacked. Everything, your social security is already on the dark web.
Yes, it definitely is. It's not everybody, of course, but frequently, yes. I think in this case, blockchain and Bitcoin get to that point of discomfort even faster than the internet did, though, because we're immediately talking about money. And when people say, when the worst case scenario is all my money could disappear in 5 seconds, 5 microseconds, that people are like, show me 10 years of clean operation around the world, and then I'll sit down with you.
Yeah.
Is that at some level, is that a fair position?
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah, it kind of is. Now, do I think that people need to be paying more attention to this stuff? Yes. Also, yes. But I understand the hesitation.
No, I do. I was listening. So every day I have this routine where I'm listening to several podcasts, a lot of them are crypto based, right? But all of the big money, all of the smart money is already down the road of changing how they're doing things, particularly in finance, right? The banks are having to jump on board. Every day I see new oh, well, Bank of America is going to have to offer this because people are asking for it. Mm-hmm. So I think the comfort level is going to kind of be washed aside, if you will, because you're not really going to have a choice in you're going to have to leverage it because it's going to be what's standard at some point. I think it'll move pretty quickly. Once some of the players that are not going to be there for the long time kind of wash out or get absorbed, I think we'll have, all right, that's just the banks do it this way and it's instantaneous and you can move your money how you need to. And, here are the guardrails, like you said, around it. But
and we might have a middle road too, right?
Yep.
In June, the Texas Department of Banking issued regulatory guidance to all Texas chartered banks that they can custody crypto for their clients. Right? So none of us probably are going to take any bank up on that, right? Because the whole point of crypto is you can self-custody.
Right.
But for people like our parents and grandparents, those generations, they may be more comfortable starting out with a custodian like a bank that they've always used. And so, they buy an investment or they buy some digital assets, Bitcoin or otherwise, they put it into, cold storage in their bank, or their bank has some sort of, digital custody like solution that they've white labeled from a top of the line, custody, company,
right,
that's white labeling the back end products for these banks.
Sure.
So it's not like your neighborhood credit union is going to have to develop, mechanisms and protocols for, compliance techniques for custodying crypto. They're just going to white label something from a tech provider. So
speaking of banks in Texas, so you got to tell us a little bit about your visit with Governor Abbott, and kind of what prompted that and what happened. What was the conversation like?
We were trying to get him to come speak at the summit. Okay. We had the Texas Blockchain Summit in Austin, October 8th, so several weeks ago. And, Senator Cruz came and spoke, SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce, Senator Cornyn, Senator Lummis, CEOs of very large crypto and blockchain, companies, Bitcoin mining companies like Argo, Rhodium, Whinstone, Riot, Core Scientific, Compass, the list goes on. So there's a lot of energy around that, and he couldn't make it. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I like to think, that he was sad that he couldn't make it because he had an obligation in Dallas, that weekend that he couldn't miss. I would like to think that he was bummed that he couldn't make it. So the very next week, he allowed us to host a Texas Blockchain Council reception at the governor's mansion with him and 40 of the CEOs of our corporate member companies. Now, we couldn't invite every single person that's part of the TPC. We had to prioritize some of our corporate CEOs, and it was a great experience. Great experience. They all got to come and meet him and interact and engage. And he does really want Texas to be a leader. And he actually we gave him a copy of the Bitcoin Standard months ago when we met with him the first time. It was a small engagement, a small meeting. And whether or not he's read a page of that, I don't know. I think he indicated that he had glanced through a little bit of it. He probably didn't have time to read the whole thing. But he's taking time to educate himself on this, especially Bitcoin mining, because Bitcoin mining brings stability to the Texas grid. Because these are intermittent users. They're on the controllable load program, where they can shut off within 5 seconds and push that large bulk power back
to the grid. Mm-hmm.
So
why is that relevant to Texas?
I know, right? We've been fighting that narrative for since the winter storm, Storm Uri, and so he was already interested because he's already fascinated with blockchain, and he's got a legal background, and so that the economics and the rule of law and the governance, that all appeals to him. But we started talking about how this could bring a resilience and harden the Texas grid. He got pretty interested. He's like, the people at the PUC and ERCOT need to hear about this. And he was going to he said, well, you need to meet with this person. And they're like, yes, sir. We've met with them. They're aware. They're supportive. ERCOT's aware of controllable load. They're aware that Bitcoin will be a growing percentage of the controllable load. Right now, it's not that big. Bitcoin mining in Texas is less than 1.5% of the total grid is Bitcoin mining. In 5 years, it might be more like 4% of the total Texas grid is Bitcoin mining.
I was going to say 1.5% is pretty, I mean, that's
substantial.
That's meaningful.
Yeah, that's nearly a megawatt.
Yeah.
A gigawatt.
Yeah.
Several hundred megawatts worth of Bitcoin mining in Texas. And imagine that amount of power being able to put that in perspective for listeners. I'm pretty sure the city of Lubbock is like 100 megawatts, like downtown Lubbock. And so we're talking about many times the size of the city of Lubbock of power. And when you hear that, you're going to get freaked out. You're like, that's a ton of power. What they're actually doing is they're going out into these rural areas and they're soaking up unused power that wasn't otherwise going to make it to the transmission system anyway. Now, some of it was, we can't say all of it, but there's a ton of unused and wasted power in the Texas grid because we can't get it to where we need it when we need it. The duck curve, transmission, grid congestion, it's all a problem.
We talked about this at the Bitcoin conference.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a huge market incentive for Bitcoin miners to go soak up unused and wasted power. Now they're going to be connected to the grid and they're going to be using some of the power that would be part of the grid circulation anyways. But they're also creating a bigger baseload demand that incentivizes more production, especially wind and solar. And then you turn that off when the grid is stressed a little bit or strained a little bit. You can turn it off within 5 seconds. That's unlike any other heavy industry in the state.
Yeah.
Other heavy industries fought with the governor, fought with the legislature, did not want to turn off during Winter Storm Uri and I don't blame them. It's very cost prohibitive. I mean, to restart some of these factories, it's costing them millions of dollars.
Sure.
But Bitcoin miners are like, no, we'll make more money turning it off and selling our power back to the grid than we are mining Bitcoin. They had that strike price, right? Because we had that deregulated energy-only market. So when cost of power starts to go up, they hit that point where like, all right, shut them down. We're going to make more power pushing this power, make more money pushing this power back into the grid than we otherwise would make mining Bitcoin.
You talked about the connects that Governor Abbott wanted to set up with you guys, and you said, hey, we're fortunate we spoke with them already, which kind of leads me to a question of, if there's one yes that you feel like is most important to still get, like if you could talk to one person and get a yes from them on some issue in the next year, what's at the top of your wish list?
Ben, that's a great question. And it probably wouldn't be the governor. I mean, he's been very supportive, and he doesn't make like direct introductions, right? He may have had one of his staff introduce somebody from ERCOT or something like that. Or he may have just said, hey, you've got resources, make the introduction on your own. So we certainly can't like ask him to do things like that. He's got way more important things on his mind. But the one person would actually be the comptroller, Glenn Hager. I would ask the comptroller to enable Texans to either donate or pay property taxes in virtual currency, which that's the language we have to use for Texas because that's how it's written into the Uniform Commercial Code. But if you could pay your property taxes in Bitcoin or state taxes, franchise tax, that would be a forcing function that would force the state of Texas to reckon with Bitcoin. And if the comptroller allowed donations of Bitcoin to the state of Texas, just donations. People wouldn't donate Bitcoin if they thought it was going to be converted immediately to US dollars. But if the comptroller was willing to hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet for the state of Texas, there's a lot of Texans that are Bitcoiners that would say, hey, I'd give 1% of my Bitcoin net worth to that. They're not going to leave a lot, but they would give some. And so that would be my ask, is that the comptroller could facilitate either Bitcoin donations or the payment of certain kinds of taxes in virtual currency.
To our listeners, you all hold a lot of influence. There are a lot of people who listen to this show, and if you'd like to help us out with this ask, you can just get us at the Podcast Architects open email. Just email us at podcast.architects@gmail.com. We're looking for a discussion with Glenn Hager.
That's right.
The comptroller.
Yeah, and we have had conversations with his staff, his senior staff, so they're aware of it. It's just going to take some political muscle to push it through. Not that not that they don't want to do it. It's just they've got a million things. And it's not an endeavor without risk, right? There is some risk involved.
Yeah.
So, we need some technical and political capital to help push that across the finish line. And that could be years away, but I'd love to get there at some point.
Yeah. Let's see if we can help.
I was hoping you'd say to Mark Cuban, I wish you would have traded Dirk like around his 6th season. We got something in exchange for him. No, that I always think about what I would ask, like, because I'm a big Shark Tank fan. It's like, what would I ask Mark Cuban if I ran into him?
Yeah,
it would always be a basketball question, like silly me. Instead of asking him, hey, how do we educate kids? And it's like, what about Dirk? You could have traded him. You got so
he probably would have had
Steve Nash get away.
Yeah. I commend you on keeping it focused. Or the governor's like, hey, how many bathrooms does this place have? Like, I'm always focused on the stuff that's not really aligned with, the mission at hand. But man, I'm just in awe of the progress you guys have made and you yourself have made with all of this.
It's a team effort, for sure. We've got volunteers all around the state. Mm-hmm. We've got people that take time to go testify in front of legislative committees about this stuff. There's a movement afoot that there's a lot of people, and Texans are really proud of our state, right?
You don't say.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah, of course.
We've done some things.
Yes.
And not me, the Texans of the past, right? We've got a history of innovation, free thinking, hard,
That's a pioneering
work
place.
ethic. Yeah,
no question.
Just incredible work ethic. So I think when you marry that, when you combine that history and that narrative with the narrative of decentralization, blockchain, and Bitcoin, you really get a powerful force. Mm. There's going to be a lot of just very passionate people out there that want to see Texas lead in this for the sake of the country, right? If New York leads on it, then we'll never get anything done. And New York is incredible for a lot of reasons, but they overregulate everything.
Oh, yeah.
So in that area, they are falling on their face. So, and it's not like Texans are about no regulation. Again, it's just smart, light touch, sensible regulations that allows entrepreneurs to flourish. And I think what you said earlier about the biggest in-demand skill in the United States is entrepreneurship. People in other countries learn that skill out of necessity.
Right.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
They have to survive. So they got to figure out how to barter to get what they need to survive. Absolutely.
Exactly. I think we don't learn it here.
And Naval Ravikant, I think, said it best. He talks about founder mentality, and he basically says people with founder mentality can't rest once a problem or opportunity is identified. They recruit new skills as needed, deliver results despite politics, et cetera, et cetera. And he closes by saying there is unlimited global demand for founder mentality. Mm. That's it. Like, and to teach the skill set that goes around that, the concept, like just customer discovery. Yeah. How many good books are there out there on customer discovery, which might be the most like under-taught skill in the civilized world? How many good books are there on customer discovery? One. One. I mean, maybe the answer is more than one, but if it's more than one, I've looked a long time.
The publishers didn't market them very well.
One. Yeah. So, and there's some stuff in the kind of the lean entrepreneurship curriculum, so to speak, on customer development, but the core lesson there is just get out of the building. And in terms of, all right, now you're in a conversation or you've walked up to someone who could be a valuable source of information for you. How do you approach that conversation? One. There's just one. The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick is the one that I've found. And there's a ton of other skills kind of around entrepreneurship that could demystify that process and take us away from the world of just fake it till you make it and buy 100,000 followers on Instagram and just try to be impressive instead of help people solve problems and help people realize aspirations and help people transition, because that's what entrepreneurship really is it's helping people transition. So
I'm motivated. I don't know about you, Rick, but
this is
that last 30 seconds. We need to make that like a
that's our intro. Brandon, clip that and send it around. But it's all it's all right here for us. Like my ask, you asked about the ask. The ask is, who wants to put this technology in the hands of kids, because they're going to have to use it, right? Yeah. And if you have somebody that's willing to do that, and an entity that's willing to partner with that, and the right people, there's zero reason why Texas can't lead in this space. Zero reason. I mean, this is a ripe opportunity for us.
And we've got to do it responsibly, because if we don't do it, then they're going to try to learn it on their own.
Correct.
Their friends are going to teach them, and then there's some negative consequences to the blind leading the blind.
Correct. Correct. Much like my Voyager balance sometimes as I'm watching the next coins coming out. But this is an exciting time, man. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us and just, giving your expertise and the overall picture. I had no idea. The property component of it, I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking, medical records, that would make sense, and some different logistical components. But I didn't even think about real estate and how that would.
Anytime value is transferred, that's where you need to plug it in. There's a consortium plus value transfer equals blockchain use case. Those things not present, blockchain probably is not what you need. There was a lot of overhype early on. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to kind of narrow the focus.
Right.
Value transfer and a consortia. So
before we let you go, give us one funny story from the Army, basic training, something. You got to give us one, because my dad has a ton. So we got to hear one.
That's awesome. Yeah. Man. Okay. So basic training, we're learning grenades.
Okay.
All right.
We're learning grenades.
You have our attention.
We're all lined up, right? We're throwing dud grenades and everything. And you get up there, the drill sergeant's got you, you're in front of you're in a bunker, and you get the live grenade, and you walk out there, and the Army's very risk averse on this kind of stuff, right? So it is nowhere near, a traditional combat situation, right? It's very controlled environment. And so this one guy takes a pin out of the grenade, goes to throw it, barely goes just a few feet in front of him. And the drill sergeant who's with him grabs him, and thankfully they're in a bunker. So he grabs him and yanks him down to the ground. And all the rest of us are way back, 20 yards back behind these barriers, right? So there's no risk to us.
Right.
Just the two of them out there. And he grabs him, pulls him down. Obviously it goes off, and they're safe because they've got these bunkers built. But the drill sergeant did it in such a way that, they kind of do it forcefully, right? To teach him a lesson, slams into the ground, and he gets back to us. He's rubbing his shoulder. He's like, man, this drill sergeant smashed me into the ground. And we're like, why didn't you throw it a little further? And he's like, I didn't think it would be that heavy. It shocked him how heavy it was. So he didn't get it that far.
He just lobbed it like it's a smoke bomb out there.
I guess he thought it was a smoke bomb, or some sort of in the movies they throw a grenade 80 yards.
Yeah.
Right.
And they are pretty heavy.
Yeah. Well, they 5 pounds, 2 pounds. How much do they weigh?
Shoot, I don't know. Between 2 and 5 though, probably not more than 5.
Did they give you the satchel because you played baseball? It's all right, if we get to a wartime situation,
hardly.
Throw hop this one.
Yeah, no, literally, they don't allow you to throw more than one grenade. That's how cheap the Army is. You get one live grenade in training total.
Oh, wow.
Because more, it's expensive, right? Every grenade costs a ton of money. In fact, when we were shooting those 203s, little out of the grenade launcher, the M4 mounted grenade launcher, nobody except for 2 people in the entire basic training battalion got to shoot a live round. Everybody else had to shoot training rounds.
Oh, wow.
That is how cheap the Army is.
Maybe the Army needs to start mining some Bitcoin there.
Maybe.
There you go. Plug in.
It's probably more valuable for national security for the Army to be mining Bitcoin than for them to be training anybody on an M203 grenade launcher at this point. Because we're fighting the wars of the 20th century when we're training people on grenade launchers. And not that we don't need those kinetic skills, but that stuff is, there's a lot of people in the military with those skills.
Sure.
The military is a very, disciplined and trained organization. They can fight kinetic wars. Nobody can hold a candle to the United States on kinetic warfare. Cyber war, not so much.
Yep.
we got to put some investment dollars over there.
Yep.
So that kind of brings us full circle, right? We got to educate the next generation.
That's right. Yep. Cybersecurity,
emerging tech, cybersecurity, AI, blockchain, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Any shout outs that you have for anybody, your team, anybody on your team, or you already shouted out the governor and Mark Cuban, so they'll be contacting us for follow-up podcast.
Sure. We've got great board of directors at the TBC, Vice President of Operations, Sanjay Kaluvalil.
Yes.
A lot of volunteers. Our Houston volunteers, Mark Cole, Deanna Bailey, Austin volunteers, Andrea Nicholas. They like run meetups down there just because they're passionate. So listeners can follow us on TX Blockchain 1 at TX Blockchain 1 on Twitter. I'm at Lee_Bratcher on Twitter. And, I used to not be that big into Twitter, but crypto is on Twitter.
You got to.
Sure is.
So I have been cultivating my Twitter presence, as they say, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, me as well. Like I had to, as being school business, everything's on social media, so you have to take part and learn it. So I've last 3 years, I've gotten better and better and better.
Man, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on the show, and very thoughtful questions. And look forward to pushing people towards this podcast, because obviously the kind of people that y'all are interviewing, this is really exciting. So
we appreciate it. If you need a K-12 representative for that space, I am just to be around people in the conversations and learning, man, you just don't find that everywhere. So I'll throw that offer out there for you and your team if you need a K-12.
You better be careful. We might take you up on that.
I'm good with that. I love this innovation piece, because ultimately it's going to benefit our kids. And that's what I'm about, is what do we do in the best interest of kids? So we can do that. We'll be all good. Well, I got to say that Lee delivered as expected. I mean, just blown away by all of the implications for blockchain, for Bitcoin, and his journey, his leadership and his journey through this process. I mean, what did you think?
I thought it was really incredible. And I feel like every time I have a conversation around this space, I get like just the landscape starts to come into focus just a little bit more. I still feel like the amount of things that I know nothing about far outnumbers the things that I know even 1% about, but it's good to sort of get a better sense. For me, one of the big takeaways was the first thing we touched on, which is the real estate application. Mm-hmm. And there's so much possibility in this space. And separate, Lee also mentioned that there was this kind of overzealous, there was some overselling of what the space is capable of, what blockchain is capable of in the early going, and the idea of, all right, where there's value transfer in a consortium, like that kind of thing, starting to zero in on that is really exciting to me.
Yeah, as an educator, you always say, if you need to find answers, go ask the experts, or go talk to the experts, or research from what the experts have written or said. So, being around Lee and his expertise opened my eyes to all of the other possibilities beyond just what I thought it could be and should be. So, very, very productive discussion, and I look forward to continue learning about it.
Yeah, it's exciting, really exciting stuff. And one of the things I enjoyed most about this conversation is Lee is a smart person who has, from everything we can tell, the best of intentions and wants to help people, and is coming at this from a mindset of asking questions and finding out new things and learning. It had I don't know, I feel this whole space, I feel like, has a very good and productive feel to it.
Yeah. I think having an educator background like he does helps with that, right? Because you're just naturally inquisitive, and you're used to asking questions. And if you don't understand, well, prove it to me, show it to me. Let's see the research behind it. So definitely got that sense from him. So I think that he is definitely going to move the needle for blockchain, for Bitcoin, for our local entities. And hopefully Texas will become and remain a leader in the space. Yeah,
I think that's true. And I think conversations like this one hopefully can help advance the ball in terms of blockchain and Bitcoin and crypto in general being constructs that serious conversations get built around. Hopefully engaging conversations as well, but serious conversations where it's not, hey bro, it only goes up, like that. Right. I feel like that kind of stuff is obviously fun for the memes, but when the serious conversations start to take on that tone as well, I'm out.
Gotcha.
And this was the opposite of that.
Nope. Very excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. To our listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode of The Path Forward. Thanks, Dr. Fernandez.
Thank you.